Hey, this is Joe Danz, and welcome to the Creativity and Technology Solutions for Business and Life show. The show will feature creative and technology solutions for today's competitive world and the people who run small to mid-sized businesses and the folks trying to meet the unique challenges of daily living. We want you to think beyond the box and connect the dots for success. To accomplish this, the show will use experts to talk about technology, its trends, and new ways to leverage creativity in everyday life and business. I'm Joseph Danz, as I mentioned, and I'm your host. I head up the Warwick-based RogueWave Creative Group, which can be found on the web at www.rwc Group Inc. My Warwick-based company provides think tank services for the financial, technology, and consumer product industries with a focus on harnessing creativity. I also write a column for the Times Herald Record, a Dow Jones publication. And today we're going to talk about something that's going to be new to a lot of folks out there, and at the same time, it's going to become more and more common as time goes by, as we see it, something called in-building wireless network technology, and its growing use and deployment around the world. If you attended the last two Super Bowls and are planning to attend the upcoming Olympics, wouldn't that be nice? We're going to talk to the experts who've enabled thousands of people to connect seamlessly to the web by using their smartphones or tablet computers like the iPad at events like that, and also buildings too. Times are changing, and fortunately today we have two leading industry experts to talk about the technology behind the scenes and how it is deployed. And the first one is Dominique Gauthier, and he is the Chief Technology Officer of iBwave. iBwave is a leading provider of a popular software suite that empowers operators, system integrators, and equipment manufacturers to provide the optimum network coverage and capacity inside buildings. And today we're talking about 80% of all wireless traffic, which occurs, in buildings, to boost that type of efficiency and productivity. iBwave software has also provided the core software platform for the design of hundreds of in-building, maybe even thousands of in-building wireless networks globally, including the past two Super Bowls and now the 2012 Olympics. iBwave also offers quality hands-on training and certificate programs as well, instilling awareness and proficiency in in-building wireless network design. And we also have Joseph Rizzo, and he is, I apologize, we'll finish with Dominique here. Dominique is a telecommunications professional. He has over 15 years experience in the industry, and at present he oversees all the aspects of the technical product development for iBwave, as well as new product architecture for the company's in-building solutions and software. He oversees the ongoing R&D effort and technical opportunities. Mr. Gauthier has been in the telecommunications industry, as I said, for 15 years. And prior to joining iBwave, he held key leadership roles related to in-building development and deployment activities when he was held responsible for the implementation of the technology in British Columbia, Canada. He's a former RF engineer for Bell Canada, and he was instrumental in the full development of the wireless carrier's new indoor and outdoor CDMA network. Mr. Gauthier also is a graduate with the Order of Engineers of Quebec, and he has his engineering degree in electrical engineering, and he's a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Montreal. We also have Mr. Rizzo, Joseph Rizzo. He's the president and CEO of Rizzo Consulting. Mr. Rizzo began his business back in 2001. Rizzo Consulting specializes in large-scale installations of in-building wireless networks, and they've designed over 1,500 wireless communication solutions nationwide. And he also has an electrical engineering degree from Southern Illinois University. And gentlemen, is there anything I've left out? Because it's nice to have people with exceptional credentials here and global deployments of this technology.
I think you have done a great job. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, good. Well, Dominique, let's start with you. What is an in-building wireless network?
Okay, well, maybe in simple terms, an in-building wireless network is an extension to the outdoor network. So traditionally, a wireless operator would install towers or deploy antennas on a rooftop, on the rooftop of a building,
right,
to provide wireless coverage street level, and most of the time the coverage would penetrate beyond the wall so that people can use their mobile device inside buildings as well.
Right.
But a lot of times the obstruction and the penetration loss incurred by these walls is too high, and people cannot use their mobile device inside buildings anymore. So an in-building wireless network would be composed of a source of signal, whether it be a radio base station or a repeater, that would connect a number of antennas that would be deployed strategically inside the building and connected through cables between the antennas and that source of signal, so that there is a continuity between the outside world and going indoors. So there's a seamless transition going in and out the building.
So if you also, too, if you move from one section of a building to another, there's continuity as well. You'll be able to, if you're looking at something streaming, you'll be able to continue to look at it as well.
This is correct. So it would be seamless for the mobile user, wherever he is in the network.
So why is it important today for end users, like we might see at the Super Bowl or the Olympics, to have this type of technology available at a venue like that? Is it a function of the crowd? What are some of the factors there?
Well, nowadays we see that the mobile penetration has increased, and as many countries it has exceeded 100% of the population. So almost every teenager, everybody in a household today would have a mobile device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. So people are expecting to remain connected to the web and remain be able to be reached or place voice calls wherever they are, whenever they're traveling, or if they're attending an event at a stadium or attending a concert. So, and most importantly, talking about stadium environments, well, people, they invest a lot of money to have a ticket to attend the venue. So a lot of people would like to share their experience while they're attending the venue. So today, you can use your video camera to record a video or take pictures and then post them back to the web so that you can share with your friends and let them know, okay, I'm there, I'm live, and I have a look at the view I get from my seat. So
Sure.
People, they are expecting to remain connected even during those events. So understanding the density of population in a stadium, it's probably the type of environment where you have the highest density of people per square miles, let's say. And so from an operator standpoint, a wireless operator standpoint, it's important to be able not only to provide coverage, but ensure that all of those thousands of fans have access to the network, because it's not because you have bars or full bars on your mobile device that you're going to be able to access the network. It could be that there's too much congestion or traffic on the system.
Sure.
So nowadays, being able to dimension those systems properly in order to ensure a grade of service that will provide an end-user experience is important, because there's a lot of revenue that can be generated by the operators.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you. You know, why is this important to, certainly telephone, carriers that are out there today, or telecom carriers that are out there today, and it's a function of revenue and certainly better quality service.
Yes, and also being able to retain your customers. And also it's important to realize that during those events, a lot of time you have people that travel from abroad to attend specific concerts or events. So you have a higher density of roamers who, if you travel outside of your country,
Sure.
you know how much you pay per minute to place a call, or how expensive it can be to do a data session. So all of those factors combined represent a fair chunk of money for an operator.
Very good. Folks, we're talking to Dominique Gauthier, and he is the Chief Technology Officer for iBwave, global leader in in-building wireless network design. We'll also be speaking to Joseph Rizzo as we take a break here. He's the president of Rizzo Consulting, and we're talking about in-building wireless and the Super Bowl. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Joe Dance, and welcome back to the Creativity and Technology Solutions for Business and Life show. And today we're talking about in-building wireless networks and how they're being deployed at major events and venues around the world, like the Olympics and the Super Bowl. And we're talking to Dominique Gauthier. He is the Chief Technology Officer of iBwave, the we'll call them the global leader in building wireless network design technology. And maybe we should ask Joseph Rizzo, the president of Rizzo Consulting, a wireless integrator. Would you consider iBwave, because you're using their technology, the leader in the industry?
First of all, thanks, Joe, for having me on the show. I appreciate your time. And yes, it is a fantastic tool, and it's our standard for what we do in designing in building networks. It allows us to really go through and fine-tune a system and a network and change it as the requirements change quickly and easily, model it, tune it, and implement it prior to ever setting foot inside of a building and pulling a single cable.
So you're basically using the software platform to build a virtual network that you can tinker with and improve on. How accurate have you found it when you built things like the Super Bowl, when you projected what that type of network might be like and how it functioned?
Oh, it's very accurate. Like any tool, if you put the effort into the modeling side of it, in tuning the buildings, our systems are done inside of buildings, so every little thing inside of the building has a loss factor to it that comes from propagating the RF through the building. And if you go through and tell the software what walls are there and what the loss factor of those walls are, and it does a fantastic job of modeling it. And not only does it model the RF propagation patterns, but it also will allow you to do capacity planning as well, which is really key for these massive networks that are going inside of buildings now. For the carriers to take a look at and to see how many users that they're going to have inside of a particular building in a given day, and being able to determine if the amount of capacity that they're putting into that system will be adequate.
Yeah. No, and obviously that's very complicated. Let me ask both of you, gentlemen, and we'll start with Joseph first, and then Dominic, you could probably give me a perspective on what's going on in Europe today from this question. I guess, Joe, here domestically in the United States, I know you have deployments globally. You can probably both address those. But, are today's tablets and smartphones, like the iPhone, really creating bandwidth challenges and the way people are using them? What's going on there? Is that taxing the networks and creating the advanced need for in-building wireless networks?
Oh, absolutely. Over the past 2 or 3 years, the in-building requirements have climbed exponentially. And it's because everybody has their iPhone or iPad or device attached to their hip, and they're checking emails, and they're updating their Facebook statuses, and they're capturing their life, and they're putting it up on the net. And it's a real-time experience. And in order to facilitate that, the networks are absolutely crucial.
Yeah, Dominic, is that is Europe having same problems or different types of challenges? My perception of Europe was always that if we're talking about London and deploying things in London and other parts of Europe, I always thought London and Europe were kind of ahead of the United States in some ways, but now they're getting more and more tablets and smartphones there. Are they having a hard time catching up?
I would say that the challenges are somewhat universal. Wherever we go, we see the same challenges. Maybe the adoption or the necessity for massive in-building deployment is not at the same rate everywhere. But talking about London, yes, the challenges are very similar to what we encounter in the U.S., and the uptake for smartphones and tablet devices is pretty high. And also an important component into the equation is the availability of new mobile applications. So every day people download new mobile applications that do certain things in the background that people don't really notice. So every time there's a transaction between the device with the network, there's data that needs to be transported, and that puts an additional load onto the system.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was talking to one of the people in my group, and he has a Droid, and he says that his Droid runs out of power very quickly because he has so many applications on it, and they seem to be continuing to work in real time. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, there's so many mobile application developers, and some applications, they keep connected. They maintain a connection with the network without letting you know. So that keeps running in the background without telling you. Other applications go into sleep mode. So it really depends on how the application was developed. But yes, if you maintain all your applications running in the background, that could eat a lot of data.
Sure. And we've briefly talked about the Olympics and as an event, and we'll get into that more and more. But Joseph, obviously you're using the iBwave technology. What are the different venues that you've deployed it in? Some of the unique ones, or what are some of the venues that are unusual that people wouldn't think of? Don't have to be unusual, that you've deployed that type of in-building wireless technology and to develop a network.
We've developed or installed and designed systems for thousands of different buildings, and they range from single antenna systems in small facilities. We've even put them in private houses, really? All the way up to very, very large facilities. We've just recently deployed for the NATO Summit here in Chicago at McCormick Place, Lucas Oil Stadium for the Super Bowl, and the Indiana Convention Center right next door for the Super Bowl. But I have to say, one of the weirdest places that we installed a network was at a sanitation facility. It was challenging for not only from an RF perspective, but just from a perspective of being in that building.
I presume it probably was some of the odors as well as other things as well. But did the density of the place provide any added challenges? Or
absolutely, there's different types of machinery and apparatus and types of walls, ranging from just regular drywall walls to large metal walls that go through the facility and prevent RF from traveling nicely through it.
Wow. See, that's fascinating, and it really is an engineering challenge. Dominique, I think you've also your technology's been also used to set up and building wireless networks in subways as well in Canada.
This is correct, and also in some cities in the U.S. We've seen our applications used for international airports, convention centers, commercial type of buildings, or high-rise buildings. So, whole variety of confined areas.
Yeah, and I know it's been very important here in the United States, from just people's 911 perspectives to getting connected, especially in subway systems, where in the past, your cell phone just died on you, and it was a big challenge. But I guess the biggest challenge, and we can talk about this certainly, is the Olympics, where you've got, as you said before, Dominique, you've got 70 to 100,000, or even with the Super Bowl, Joseph, you've got 70 to 100,000 people uploading video or pictures all at one time. I find it almost astounding that that is able to be done seamlessly, and that people can actually walk around one of those events from area to area and still be able to view something online.
Sure. I've got some interesting statistics about that at the Super Bowl.
That'd be great.
When Rizzo Consulting did the design for the Super Bowl, we had to sit down with the carriers and spend a lot of time determining what their specific requirements were. And I don't think anybody really could anticipate the amount of data traffic that went over the system during Super Bowl Sunday. For instance, one carrier alone, and one thing that's really of interest here is how the uplink data was a lot higher than the downlink data. So we had one carrier had 125 gigabytes of data that went over the system upload. So that means everybody during the Super Bowl was uploading pictures and videos of themselves. And there was only, and I say only relatively to the amount of upload data, but there was 90 gigabits of downloaded data.
Wow.
And that was during the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So what's happened is we've had during these events, you get a shift. Normally if you're at home and you're surfing the internet, most of the stuff that you're doing is download, right? You're downloading a song, you're downloading pictures, you're doing those sort of things. But when you're wireless and you're out at events, most of the data that you're doing in these facilities is uploading. Yeah. So it's sort of a shift from the thinking that we've done in the past, and so a lot of data is going up to the network as opposed to down.
Sure. So typically people are going to a social networking site.
Yes. Yeah. They're the biggest time that data is being uploaded during the Super Bowl is 30 seconds after kickoff. Everybody is snapping a picture of the kickoff of the game, and they're uploading that onto their Facebook page, or they're emailing it to a friend, or they're texting it to, "Hey, Mom, look, we made it. Here's the picture of us at the kickoff." That sort of thing is taking place.
Yeah, no, I can understand. So it's what I always used to laugh at is sometimes I'd go to an event and I'd see somebody they're watching the event on their laptop when they could be standing up and looking at it. I guess we don't. We see some of that maybe with events like this where people are able to watch replays, things like that are available.
Yeah, the NFL, what they're doing now is they're providing an individual user experience where you can download an individual replay of a game. So if you see something that's exciting that doesn't get repeated on the Jumbotron, you can access the NFL Network, and you can download your individual replay that you want to see, and you can fast forward and slow it down or do whatever you need to do in order to view the play how you want to. So it's becoming more of an individual wireless experience.
Yeah. I guess really with anything, it comes down to the experience. People talk about the voyage to get somewhere. In this case, when we're talking about the Super Bowl, we've got there, and we're able to look at it from all different types of angles. And I think that's important to a lot of people that are out there to basically advance the experience, and we're so connected. It's almost astounding. Are people's, I guess a question for both of you gentlemen, are people's expectations so high now based on the quality standards of service that you've provided? Are they getting to the point where they're unrealistic, or can you continue to meet those types of needs?
Well,
I think
in my
that
perspective, they are not unrealistic because it becomes expected that your mobile device can be used wherever you are, and whether you are underground or at the penthouse level of a high-rise building. So access to your network it becomes some form of a given, like tap water or electricity. So this is, I see that there's a transition in the industry where even building owners realize and recognize that there's a value to their building if they can guarantee and make sure that they can offer wireless services for their tenants. So it's expected, and people don't really worry whether whoever the operator is, they just expect to have it, not only in their cars or as they're walking the street, but everywhere.
Right. Gentlemen, we have to take a break now, but we're going to get back to you, Joe, and ask you that question again, if you can keep that in mind. Stay tuned, folks, as we talk about in-building wireless technology and how it's going to impact your life and the Super Bowl and the Olympics and neat things like that. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Joe Danz, and welcome back to the Creativity and Technology Solutions for Business and Life show. We're talking to Dominique Gauthier. He is the Chief Technology Officer of iBwave, and they are based up in Canada, and they are the global leader in-building wireless network design technology. And we can go to their website at www.iBwave.com if any of you folks out there would like to build your network. And we're also speaking to Joseph Rizzo, the president of Rizzo Consulting, a wireless integration company that deployed its, most notably, deployed its in-building wireless technology at the last Super Bowl. And Joseph, where can we look up your organization on the web?
We are at www.rizzo-inc.com, RIZZO-INC.com.
Very good. And Joseph, we were just talking before about consumer expectations, and I guess we could even talk about carrier expectations in terms of quality wireless connectivity. What's your perspective as well?
Well, as a society, I think we've become dependent on our wireless devices. You know, we're looking for them to make our lives easier and help schedule our appointments and keep in contact with our children and just keep in contact with the rest of the people in our lives. And I think it's very important that it's available no matter where we go. You know, if we're driving in our car and we drive into a parking garage, we should be able to make a phone call, and I think people expect that. You know, from a convenience standpoint and from a safety standpoint as well. You know, if something happens while you're inside of that parking garage and you need assistance, you can easily dial out. Or if you're in a building, you know, at your office and you're on a conference call and you simply want to go home, you can take that call with you from your 50th floor office all the way down through the elevators into the parking garage, into your car, and you can get a jump start on the traffic while you're carrying that call, and nobody else would even be the wiser of it.
Yeah, it's exceptional how things have changed as well. But we can also talk about, we go back to the value added. My understanding was there were different insurance carriers that would give buildings or different types of facilities, like you said, in a parking lot that's way down below that normally you would never be able to get a wireless signal out of, because they had in-building wireless and people were able to dial 911 and get emergency services. They actually were getting an insurance break as well. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dominique.
Sorry, adding to that, I was in Europe a couple of weeks back, and there are even countries where any new building that is being constructed, the building owner needs to show and prove to the first responders that they have 100% coverage, so they can place a call anywhere within the facility before getting the permit to open the building to public.
Wow.
More and more regulators are putting laws in place for wireless coverage.
Wow, that's an interesting. Anything? You know what, Joseph? I'm afraid that's. Well, I shouldn't be afraid it's going to happen here. But have you heard anything of anything like that in the United States or in some of the other areas that you've worked in as well? I think it makes sense, certainly from a safety perspective. But is that your experience too, Joseph, here in the United States at all? Is any of that in the works?
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a lot of municipalities that are writing that into their building codes now, that communication requirements are required when building new buildings. and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets grandfathered into old buildings, existing structures as well.
Oh, well, where they're going to have to put it in eventually, and they're going to be...
Eventually, if you want to do that large remodel of your facility, then you'll need to also add the coverage into your facility.
Yeah. One of the interesting things, and we were talking about it before, Dominique and Joseph, was that there are more apps out on people's phones and different wireless devices, and I think Dominique, iBwave has gone in a direction that's helped engineers out there as well, and you've developed an iPhone app. Could you maybe tell us how that works in terms of maybe designing some of the in-building wireless networks that are out there?
Sure. Well, the platform we first introduced at iBwave is a software that you install on a laptop. So you can create the entire documentation of a building and then display it and analyze it on your PC. But as you go and you get mobile, there was no such thing that allowed you to review the documentation of your site as you were walking away from your laptop. So we developed that mobile application, allowing you to retrieve all the site documentation you've created with our software and walk to the venue and keep adding information onto the floor plan. So as you walk the venue, you can add pictures and you can geo-reference those pictures to the location you are on the floor plan. So we enable that mobile component into our global offering so that not only the engineers can add information into the building documentation, but other people in the organization.
Sure. And Joseph, I guess, Joe, that's pretty cool for the engineers that are out there as well. That type of application, I would presume?
Sure. It's invaluable to be able to record and track all of that information and bring it back and share it with other people within the organization.
Why don't we let's talk about an Olympic-like type of installation, and we'll go back to the Super Bowl, Joseph, where your organization deployed the technology, and what were the biggest challenges? Sometimes maybe they weren't technical, but the challenges involved, let's say, since you're an integrator, integrating some of the wireless carriers.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to do the wireless design than it is to get all the different players to play nicely together. But we were successful in doing it and had a fantastic Super Bowl experience. And I think a lot of that was due to everybody coming together in the end and working as a team. Companies that were normally would be competing against each other, whether it's a carrier competing against another carrier or an integrator competing against another integrator, we all had the same goal in mind, and that was to make a successful wireless experience at the Super Bowl. And everybody really came together and worked hard, put in the extra effort that was required to make it a fantastic experience.
Yeah, no, that I'm confident it was for those folks. And Dominique, is the same thing happening in other parts of the world too, where you have those challenges? Maybe in Europe, maybe in the UK, where you are putting in, a wireless network in the UK for the Olympics.
Well, yes, the very similar challenges occur, and one thing to also be conscious of is not only the venue. Let's say the stadium requires a wireless network, but that the system of that venue needs to integrate with the surrounding cell sites that are outside. So there's a lot of work that is involved with adapting or adjusting the outdoor network so that there's seamless integration between that new stadium system and the surrounding, because we also need to understand that people attending the event will be going in and out the venue, and we need to maintain connectivity with those users.
Sure. Maybe Joseph, you could talk about that in the instance of Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Super Bowl was held recently. There was some overlap there and maybe some interference as well. Maybe you could talk about that and how you guys solved that problem.
Sure. There's actually, for the Super Bowl, there was a large downtown area that was marked off as an area where all the Super Bowl festivities took place, and that surrounded Lucas Oil Stadium, where the game was played, and the Indiana Convention Center, which is right next door to the stadium. In the Indiana Convention Center is where the NFL Experience took place, and that's where you could go in and interact with different football players and play different games and just have a great time with the NFL Experience. But outside of the facility, there were concerts, and there were venues for people to stay and do different things like zip lines, and it was just like almost a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week party that took place there. Wow. And so with that, people were in need, not only the spectators were in need of wireless communications, but all the different vendors that were selling their wares outside of the facility, the municipalities that were making sure that everything was in order and everybody was safe, and if something did take place, they were able to communicate out. So there was a lot of work that went into to upgrading the outdoor networks to facilitate all of the capacity. It's really, we're talking two different things. We're talking coverage and capacity. Coverage is just making sure there's RF in the area. Sure. Capacity is making sure that the system, the network that's in place, is able to handle the amount of traffic that is generated by the number of users in a given area.
Right.
So there was a lot of that went into Rizzo did a lot of design work up front to make sure that the outdoor network meshed with the indoor network seamlessly.
Is there are also considerations as well for 9/11 type of issues where there's some big crisis or something happens, unfortunately, at an event? Are you designing the networks for that as well?
Sure. Location-based services are becoming more and more important. It used to be they just needed to know about where you were. There is the ability now and going forward where you will be able to not only locate what building a person is in, but eventually you'll be able to know where they are in the building, what floor they're on in the building, and so if there is an emergency call comes out from a particular area, you'll be able to pinpoint precisely where the emergency takes place.
Wow, very good. Very good. And so if we're looking at something like, let's say in the case of the Super Bowl, you've got those overlapping venues. I mean, when you're putting antennas in the Super Bowl or even some, venue like the Olympics, you are putting a series of antennas throughout that stadium that's going to give people coverage as they move from one area to the other. And typically, don't those antennas by themselves kind of conflict with each other? And how do you overcome that?
Well, you use a design tool like iBwave. It's a fantastic tool for not only getting your propagation studies, but also for capacity analysis to make sure that you're able to carry the number of calls that you need to cover. But when you're talking about interference, you're talking about one sector interfering with another sector, and you can do handoff studies with the software tool. And the Rizzo Consulting engineers set that up and did that. The system at Lucas Oil Stadium was a 43-sector system, which means that if you stand outside and you're driving down the road and you see a cell tower, most of those are 3 sectors in a given area. Right. Inside of Lucas Oil Stadium were 43 sectors, and each one of those sectors needed to be isolated from each other so that they covered the specific area that they were intended to cover, and they also provided the capacity that was required for the number of calls and the data that was being generated in a given area of the facility.
Wow. We're speaking to Dominique Gauthier today, Chief Technology Officer of iBwave, and also Joseph Rizzo, President and CEO of Rizzo Consulting, and we're talking about in building wireless. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it some more. Hey, this is Joe Dans, and welcome to the Creativity and Technology Solutions for Business and Life show. And today we're talking about in-building wireless technology, and we're talking to Dominique Gauthier, and he is Chief Technology Officer of iBwave. And they're the global leader in building wireless network design technology. And I'll call them that for the very simple reason that the number of people that we've talked to and surveyed, Joseph, people have said that iBwave has kind of set the standard for in-building wireless design. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, I think that's accurate. I don't think anybody even comes close to doing what they're doing today.
And Dominique, I believe that you are also providing certification for working with your technology, and you actually do provide certificates of, what's the best way to describe it, so that people can get certification in building wireless design. Is that correct?
This is correct. And the main objective of that certification program is to bring a level of standardization across the industry, and not only using our platforms, but understanding the entire life cycle of deploying and designing an in-building system, so that people understand the different steps and also understand the different type of outputs that need to be produced through these steps using our solutions, but also they could use other means to produce the same outputs.
Right. Very good. Gentlemen, it's been a great conversation today, and we've got just a few more minutes left in the show, but I wanted to thank you very much, roughly, for your time talking about these networks. I know a lot of people are going to look at events like the Super Bowl and the Olympics in the future and think of the deployment of your technology and how seamless it is, and they'll probably continue to take it for granted. So I want to thank you very much today and for your time. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.